What's up, good people? Welcome into Montgomery Company. I'm Renee Montgomery, and first of all, I have a PSA. All right, so next week, we will not have a show. We will not have a show next week because I'm going to be in training camp with the Atlanta Dream turned up. Obviously, I'm an executive too, so I need to be focused and locked in. But the good news is we've been trying to give you 2 shows per week to kind of get you ready for this moment. Please tap back in with us, by the way, after next week. But yeah, I'm going to be all up in training camp. And then this week on this episode, we're going to talk to Alycia Baumgardner about just boxing, being a woman in the space. And obviously, I asked her, what happens when people want that smoke in the streets? We're also going to talk about 2 anchors who got fired on the same day. Let's go. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Writers Guild of America strike, because I don't know if you guys know, but on May 1st, potentially there could be a writer's strike. And let me throw back to, I had somebody come on the podcast before because she was the writer of Good Girls, That's So Raven, and Bel Air, but I want to let Carla Waddles give you just a baseline of what's going on right now.
Yeah, the Writers Guild of America, which is the union for all the writers, TV, screenwriters. It's our contract year, and so we're now coming to the table and negotiating what our new contract is going to look like. And May 1st is our deadline to determine. We just took a big vote, a strike authorization vote, where all the writers say, do you have the right to sort of go forward with the strike? Do you have our permission? And it was like a whopping 97% like, yes, you do, because there's so many things that, writers are fighting for and feeling like there's so many issues I won't even get into, but just fighting for, the equal pay and for what we do and for younger writers and for the experiences that they're getting and that they're not getting as sort of the format of television changes into these smaller orders of 10, that we're just not, writers aren't getting the pay and they're also not getting the experience that they would normally get. I've been doing this for 20 years, and starting out when we were doing 20 episodes a season, I was, you learn all aspects of the show from the beginning to the end, where you're in the writer's room and then you're on set and you're producing your episode, and sort of in these short order forms that we're at television, writers are moving on from show to show to show, and they're not staying. They're just in the writer's room in many cases, and they're not learning to produce their episodes or be on set or talk to actors or work with directors or be in the editing bay. And so much of what we do as writers is beyond just the writer's room. So right now we're just fighting to protect a lot of that. And so we don't know if it's going to lead to a strike, but May 1st is the deadline for them to sort of figure it all out. And hopefully, if we have to do it and sort of stand behind what we're looking for, that, you hope that it won't last long because people's livelihoods. And but that 97% vote of yes,
That's
if
strong.
we have to, then we're going to do it,
The basic thing, so she gave you the foundation of what's going on, but I want to give you a little bit of history because I got some writers friends out here, man, and I was asking them questions about what do they think is going to happen? How do they think that's going to affect the industry? How is that going to affect me, the viewer that loves TV? And so basically, she was saying that, last time that the writers had a strike, the strike lasted 100 days and cost the industry somewhat around $3 billion. Now, these are all loose numbers, not the 100 days. We do know that's the truth. But with the growth of the industry and the amount of content being made with streaming platforms added to the equation, you can guesstimate that if the strike were to happen 100 days this time, it would be well over $3 billion. So one, we don't expect the strike to last that long because I just don't see people allowing that much money to be lost in the industry. But this is the opinion of a person that has no opinion because I don't have any relations. I'm just saying people don't like losing money. From what I know about business, and I've, been in some business rooms of big business being done, people don't like losing money. And so with this writer's strike, the writers are trying to get to a point where they can sustain. Like, it's kind of crazy that you could be a writer on a hit show and it's the same. You could even make less than a writer that maybe isn't on a hit show. And this is again from a friend that is a writer. So there's certain things that aren't great that are happening right now in the industry. And that's what happens when players, well, I'm saying players to see, here I am, sports, but when people, writers, players, you name it, whoever that is, when they feel like they need to change systems, this is kind of what's happening. And so, long story short, how does that affect me and you? Well, I think about it in the sense of our favorite shows. Think about what your favorite shows are, whether it's Succession, whether it's Ted Lasso, whoever, whatever your favorite show is, Harlem, was it Insecure? Somebody, the writers are what makes those shows so good. Like, yes, the actors can act, and they are a huge part because that is like 1B. So there's 1A and 1B for me. 1A is the writing, 1B is the acting. And so even when we've asked people, if you go back and listen to some previous episodes, we ask writers like Carla Waddles, like, what makes a good show? And that's what she's talking about. So if we know that 1A for making a good show is the writing, well, then we got to treat the writers better, man. It feels like sports to me. If we know that the athletes are the stars and the main part of the business, they are what makes it go. Well, we got to make sure that we're treating the athletes the right way. And I think it's all the same. So I feel like anybody that understands those concepts, because I always had to sports explain things, because I know a lot of people that listen to the show are sports fans. And I'm going to get to the sports section in a second because I'm going to talk about some things, greatness in particular. But I just understand that when you don't like something, you unite as a group and you get changes made. That's what's happening with the Writers Guild of America strike. So hopefully it gets ended, and hopefully everyone, they say a good deal is when both parties leave a little bit unhappy. So hopefully both parties leave a little bit unhappy, but both parties leave a little bit happy. And we get back to our favorite shows, man. Now on to sports. Okay, so I was watching Inside the NBA, and they said in the regular season is when you make your name, and in the playoffs, that's when you make your fame. So I thought, yeah, that's interesting because it's literally happening right now. The NBA playoffs are happening, and Kenny the Jet said Jimmy Butler willed his team to victory today. So it started to make me think about just greatness. And we talk about that word is such a large word. We hear the word GOAT mentioned all the time. We hear all these different things mentioned, and it's like, how do you define it? I don't think we should define it. I don't think one person is greatness. I think people can show greatness. People have greatness in them. Some people show their greatness more than others. Like Reggie Miller said that Jimmy Butler's performance in Game 4 of the first round against the Bucks was one of the greatest single game performances by a Heat player in the playoffs that he's ever seen. And saying that is a big thing because we know players that plays for the Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq, all three of these great players have played, and they said that Jimmy Bucket's performance was one of the greatest. And again, there's that word, greatest. So I started to think about the word greatest, and I'm watching Inside the NBA and all of those players up there, and including Ernie, he's great at what he does. And Jimmy Butler was able to show how he's great at what he does. And so, I don't know, I was an athlete myself, and I think greatness starts with mentality. People were trying to ask Jimmy Butler, hey man, why are you so good in the playoffs and you're not as good as you are in the playoffs as the regular season? Now, Jimmy Butler, of course, was like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's a difference. But when you score the fourth most individual points in NBA playoff history, Jimmy Butler, he did. So just so you know, Jordan scored 23. Elgin Baylor scored 61. Donovan Mitchell, 57. And then Jimmy Butler, 56. Greatness. You're already automatically in the category of greatness. And so people are trying to almost ask Jimmy Buckets, like, how are you great? How do you have the clutch gene? Because that's usually what we associate with greatness is when you show up. Are you your best in the biggest moments? And I don't know, when I'm watching the playoffs, we watched greatness, not even just Jimmy Buckets. Look at what LeBron did. Listen, Dylan Brooks said, I'm not going to respect nobody unless they give me 40. And Shaq said, well, listen, LeBron gave you 20 and 20. That's a 40-piece nugget, but that's greatness. What LeBron did was greatness. We're literally witnessing it live right now. So it also made me think about the WNBA season because I can't wait to witness greatness. Like, I can't wait until our team is in that gritty playoff game. The crowd is going crazy. ATL, go! ATL, go. Like, I can't wait to experience greatness with the Atlanta Dream. So, man, just watching sports right now, the NHL is in their playoff mode. NBA's in their playoff mode. WNBA training camp is right around the corner. We are all blessed to just constantly and consistently witness greatness, man. I love it. And when we're saying all these packages that you have to buy, obviously the local games will still be on your local networks. So if you still have cable and you got your local networks, you can still get your local games. It's just, if you don't have those channels, yeah, you're gonna have to get a package. All right, so the first thing we're gonna talk about is basically The question that I've seen on Twitter posts on multiple times now, especially due to the most recent announcements that I'm going to get into, but have we basically returned to cable? That's just the question that's being asked, because if you now start to look at the amount of subscriptions that you have, and I mean, everybody doesn't have all of these, but I'm just going to name some that most people have. A lot of people have Netflix. A lot of people have Hulu. There's a lot of moms that have Disney for obvious reasons. There's Peacock. There's
Prime.
what
HBO
else
Max.
is there? There's Stars
Prime.
app,
Paramount Plus.
HBO Max, Prime. Oh yeah, duh. Amazon Prime. Like, so y'all hear it. Well, now we already knew that YouTube had a premium service. Everybody always knows that. Like my son, his main form of TV is YouTube. So I knew that too was a whole streaming platform, because that's how he watches his TV. His favorite creators are his television shows. But now YouTube, boy, I tell you, they done did something now, because they have won the NFL Sunday Ticket. What that means for people that like the NFL, well, you might already have the NFL app, or you might already have certain apps that give you certain days, because we know that Thursday night is Prime. So if you want to watch the NFL games on Thursday, you better get Prime. Now, if you want to watch the NFL games on Sunday, you better get YouTube. And YouTube just announced their new packaging prices. YouTube subscribers
You
is
get out of
basically
here.
$349 per season. You can get
No
it bundled with the
football
Red
here.
Zone for $389 per season. Poor Diddy. You gotta stop making decisions for Diddy just yet. But I'm not even done yet. Here's the thing. Not only did YouTube do that, but also Madison Square Garden Network announced that MSG will launch this summer games for the New York Knicks, as well as the Hockey Rangers, the Buffalo team, the New Jersey Devils. They also are going to have their own streaming. So you New York Knicks fans, if y'all want to watch all of your games and everything like that, y'all might have to get the MSG Plus network. So I'm saying all that to say, people on the internet are a little upset, okay? People on the internet are trying to figure out,
Not
well,
really.
we was better off with cable. We thought we was doing good. We thought we was doing good. We thought that, okay, I like this. Cable's too expensive. I'm going to just get Hulu. But now it's turned into Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Showtime, HBO, YouTube TV, MSG Plus Network. So now people are like, oh, and not to mention NBA League Pass, WNBA League Pass. Now people are starting to feel
It seems like sports are
it's
becoming
getting
less
heavy.
and
It's
less
getting
accessible.
to where we
even though
got to
they're
make some
trying to make it more
decisions.
accessible and have everybody have their own streaming platforms. But it seems like it's getting harder and harder to get.
I'm mad because the reality is, you listen. You said
Because you better get
$350,
Vance
and I
some
was just
TV.
like,
I'm
I
telling
have
you
no
right now.
choice. We cannot have a football
no.
season
Mm-mm.
and no football in our house. It's not going to happen. It's just not. I already know I'm going to have to pay it. I'm going to have to pay it. And that's what makes me so angry, is that they are making me pay this, because you have, just like NBA League, we have NBA League Pass. I didn't know it, but Vance and his father had conspired, and one morning he got up to eat his cereal in before school. I'm like, what game is this on this early? And he's like, oh, we got League Pass. I said, who got League? I'm thinking he went ahead and hit the subscription button on the TV. You know how they ask if you want to do it. I thought he did it by himself, to find out that
You
him
thought
and
he
the
did it
father
by
had
himself.
conspired. So I might as well just go ahead and give it up on this $350 NFL ticket, because
Well, actually, it was pretty funny, because to that point, Cole said she came home one day and heard Serena singing, right? And she was like, what's that sound? Like, what's going on? And Vance was already just so happened to be watching the game that Serena was
the
singing at for the
Cavs.
Hawks. Who were they playing against? I forget.
yes.
They were playing against the Cleveland Cavaliers, because that's how
Donovan
the
Mitchell.
meme was born, where I was sitting the only one. You went with me shooting in the gym. Yeah, so Cole, so basically you're mad because
I'm
they
gonna
know
have
what
to get
they're
it.
doing. You're not alone in the sense of people gotta get it. If you want to watch the
Absolutely.
games on Sunday,
Well, let me just
you
chime
gotta
in here.
get the pass.
You all know I'm on a fixed income and everything. And one of the reasons I got rid of cable, because
Yeah.
my cable bill went up to over $350 a month, before I started streaming. And so I can choose what I want to stream now. If I want to stream it, for this particular period of time, I sign up and then I stop it. But I just think I right now need to let all of our viewers know I'm starting a GoFundMe for my television views, because if they raise these prices like this, the people who are on fixed incomes like me will just have to sit and twiddle our thumbs, I guess.
Hey, that's a good point. That's a good point, because how is Diddy gonna? He's a big football fan. How are you going to be able to afford this if you're on a fixed income? So it seems like they're cutting out a whole demographic of people.
They not cutting out our demographic. Them people, I'm buying my Diddy.
I mean, Diddy's lucky that he has you.
The red zone. Yeah. I'm telling you that for free. Y'all go ahead and. I'm telling y'all, go ahead
a lot of people
start your
wouldn't
GoFundMe,
have
Snook.
that,
I ain't gonna stop you for that, but
it's a luxury. It's a luxury.
Exactly.
And this is the thing, I had a cable company that wasn't very good. Anyway, we didn't get to see off half of the time. And then for every little thing they charged you for. So what would happen is, okay, they charge for the 24 of the phone. So I drop off the phone. It drops down 1 month. And then the next month is more than it was when I had the phone. I had security. I dropped it off. And then the next month or two, it's more than it was when I had security. So it was no way to win with cable. So that's why I got rid of it.
Now, you know what? Cable and phone companies. Now, how is it possible that every time I call the phone company and complain,
that's not working
they
anymore.
have a better deal
what Snook is
that they
talking
can
about.
give me?
It used to be where you used to be able to call and be like, I'm about to cancel. I want a cheaper package. And then they'll give, now it's like, okay, now cancel. And when you come back, it's going to be more expensive.
You whatever you want.
I had a neighbor who said it really messed her up because she had that automatic payment. I don't do nothing on automatic payment. I have to know before I pay you. I have to know what I'm paying for. And she had automatic payment, and they didn't tell her that they raised it all up like that. She said all of her bills bounced and everything because the cable company took out their money, and she didn't even know they had raised the bill over $100.
Yeah, crazy that they're actually that. To me, it's funny that they're even allowing YouTube to charge that amount, because they should know they're going to lose views. They're going to, that's the thing. I don't understand.
Oh, it's a long game. No, they're playing a long game, because it's like, imagine that you held out on year one. You're like, I ain't getting the Sunday ticket. And every Sunday you have FOMO. When you watch them highlights go along. I feel like you're going to try to budget it in next year or something. They know that there's
Let me tell you what's going to happen. These restaurants and these bistros and all these places that stream these games, they about to have a come up, because if people can't afford $350 to watch the NFL Sunday ticket, they got $10 for an appetizer and some water. And so they're going to go
they're going to be drinking Bud Lights. They're going to be cheap, they say.
That too. I'm done. But that's true. But my point is that you can always get a $10 appetizer and some water and go to your local place and watch the game.
It's going to be like the equivalent of carpooling, and be like, hey, let's have a watch party at your house.
We're going to have a watch party at this restaurant.
We used to have those.
Yeah, we used to have them.
Facts. We definitely used to have fight parties.
Yeah, we
used to have fight parties and Super Bowl parties. And speaking of fight parties, we just stay tuned, because we have Alycia Baumgardner coming up. Had a great conversation with her, but we definitely used to have them parties and stuff. But Snook, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how you would handle this situation, right? You've been working at a job for 17, 18 plus years, and you get a note from your agent that says your services are no longer requested. Would you care that they didn't tell you directly, or would you just be mad that you're fired? Like, what would your energy be about a situation like that? I think
sometimes you have to know who your employer is. And so going on their track record and things they've done, like I just want to say,
so what have you done? So if you're
my employer knew better than to do that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say too. They would have been like, that's the best bet. You need to tell her outside of office.
Told me I would be the last one standing where I worked.
Because I wasn't going to take
why
did they know
Most
not
of
to
the
do
time
that
I went
to
to battle, I won. And so they said after a while, they knew not to mess.
So that is not a proper way of doing
All right,
things,
well,
basically.
look,
No, it's not. It's not. But you have to really know who you work for. These companies these days don't care anything about their
care.
employers. And I've said this before, that, it used to be, the paradigm used to be that, employees and people are your best resources. They don't care about people anymore. The money, the almighty dollar is their best resource. And if you get in the way of that dollar, you better look out.
There you go.
I mean, no lies detected. I mean, honestly, to that point, I mean, I've recently experienced the same thing. So, as everybody knows, every summer we turn up with WNBA Weekly. And to your point though, Snook, I don't necessarily think it means that the employer doesn't care about you. Sometimes employers are under stress too. Like, the second longest tenured employee at ESPN got let go. So, we're talking about, we all know that Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson got let go as anchors, but the second longest tenured employee at ESPN got let go along with 1,200 employees. Do you think that they're meeting with everybody directly? I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that sometimes the situations are changing how things are happening. It feels like there's mass
You
layoffs.
let me know.
And shoot, I'm one of them because recently I got look, I ain't trying to go to war, Snook. But recently, my agents let me know that WNBA Weekly would no longer be carried on Turner. That's just for various reasons. It happens in companies where it could be budget cuts. It could be new changes.
I call BS on this because let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. They will hire a consultant and pay them almost six figures, a consulting firm. Almost six figures to come in to tell them how to save $1. Then you can hire a consulting firm to meet with the people, especially your tenured people, and let them know that either this is not personal, this is because of this is because of that, but we are actually having to let you go. I don't believe that because that company is too big for them to have just had the local HR person send out a mass text. It's not. They've had people in there along the way.
Well, I mean, we saw how Twitter handled their layoffs. I'm saying, I know that we're talking about
absolutely.
Other, but this has been a problem with not just one company. Facebook had a mass layoff of almost 10%, something of that nature. So basically, long story short is we're starting to see these mass layoffs. And to that point, guys, shouts to Turner, by the way, I still work with Turner. I'm going to be there. Actually, I'm going to be at Turner tomorrow on Friday. So tap in, by the way, playoffs game 6. So shouts to Turner. They're still family, but on the other side of things,
people should learn to, and you just said, shout out to Turner, to not ditch your employee in public or with other people, because it sometimes comes back to bite you. And I think in some of these situations, people have talked about, the upper room, that's where the bosses live or whatever. You should keep that stuff to yourself because sometimes it comes back to bite you.
I would agree, but I think the bottom line is, like I said, before these humongous billion-dollar companies let people go, they hire these consulting firms at 6 and 7 figures to come in to reconfigure the company, to see where they can pinch the dollar, pinch the penny. Then they can take that respectable 6 figures, or they could actually do less than that and hire a team of HR people to let their people feel like they've been let go. Yes, thank you for getting us to this point, because they've used these people to this point. They've gotten to this point because of the tender people. But the courtesy is a courtesy.
Oh.
The courtesy is the courtesy. No, because then what happens is when the person comes back with a gun and wants to go in there. No, seriously, because they feel like they haven't been seen as a person and they were let go callously because they've given their time. A lot of these people work extra hours. They do extra things. And when you feel like that you've been putting as much as you can into the business and the business just skirts you off like that, it makes some people feel, we've heard about people being disgruntled about being fired, about being let go, how they were fired, how they were let go. And so to make people feel like, well, at least they gave me the decency of telling me to my face, it sometimes helps. It does sometimes help.
And I don't know if he did that or not, but
no, he did not.
Says,
that's what I was about to get at. That
the
he was actually already
he came out with a statement.
They have tapes, not maybe for him, but for others who have bashed their employer. And so, when they're thinking about what should they do or shouldn't do, and they see that, well, you've made some kind of cruddy statements about them, it kind of helps them push you on out the door.
No, definitely. But what I was getting at is that yes, Don Lemon was already let go, and I think that it was what was interesting to me was the difference in the way that they reported Tucker Carlson and the way that they reported Don Lemon. Like obviously, however they did Tucker Carlson, he didn't feel the need to go out on Twitter and say, "Hey, my company fired me unknowingly" or something. They were like, "Oh, they decided to part ways." But then with Don Lemon, it was like Don Lemon fired from CNN, and he did not know himself until his agent told him. So I think that it would have been, like the courteous thing to do to at least tell him directly and not let his representatives or his agents tell him.
Well, actually, that's a good point because, okay, so I think that that's probably pretty much the gist of his problem. He probably felt like he was closer to the people than to be informed,
especially after being there for
through an
17
agent
years.
or a third party. But it's interesting because he was there for 17 years, and then, but to your point of, he clapped at them, honestly, basically posting a tweet, and CNN kind of clapped back. It said, and I'm paraphrasing. Actually, let me get the exact tweet that CNN sent, because they actually sent a response into Twitter, because this is how, like, Twitter, and when I tell you guys we bring topics from Twitter,
don't put my business out there, because I don't have a blue check mark. You don't either.
So this is why. Oh my goodness, Lord have mercy. So basically, the reason that we always bring topics from Twitter to the pod is because Twitter is where the news is happening. Don Lemon gets fired and it's all over the internet. He releases a statement on Twitter, and then CNN's PR communications team releases a statement about the statement back on Twitter. This is why we talk about Twitter. And their statement was, Don Lemon's statement about this morning's events is inaccurate. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter.
Wait a minute, but does that after they already fired him? What we get to talk about?
No, you can't request a meeting after his agent already told him that he was fired.
No, that should have happened before. Right, Serena, I agree. That should have happened before you fired him. You should have said, "Can you meet with us? We need to discuss some things." Then you fire him, and then if whatever he says, he says. But he did right. I wouldn't want to meet with him either. After you already severed my package, have a severance package in the mail.
I've done a lot of HR stuff at work, and it is totally inappropriate for CNN to say anything in regards to him being let go. That is not what you do. If he made that statement, but they should, but it shouldn't be. Somebody could have clapped back, but it shouldn't have been HR. I'm just saying.
But I don't understand.
Or that should have been probably handled
the PR. It was PR, Mom. But I don't understand. But I don't understand why they wanted to meet with him
not
after they fired him. Let me tell you why. Because somebody said this was not the right way to do this, and I'm pretty sure what happened was somebody got ahead of themselves. They said, "Well, just go ahead and let him go." They let him go. Then somebody's like, "Yo, we got to fix this because it's going to look crazy." Reach out, see if he wants to meet with us, and we'll discuss it. You don't want me to come back in after you fired me. You don't want to send me that email and say, "Hey, I know I fired you. I got your severance package in the mail or your email.
I got security here to escort you out the bill. I have security here to escort you out the
so
building."
now you go perp walk me out.
That's how, when you fired, that's what they do. You take all your stuff, then you don't come back and get it.
To that point, though. Well, but to that point, don't you think that they might have been a little bit afraid?
Why did you invite him afterwards?
Cole, what'd you say? I'm gonna set this thing off, basically.
No, I'm just shaking my head like, no.
I'm not saying
I
they're
agree.
right. I'm just saying
they should have been.
They probably was scared. They probably was scared of the reaction, because in Don Lemon's statement, and I'm just going to allude to, there was a long statement that Don Lemon released, but he basically said that he had no indication, he had no idea, he did not see this coming. So basically, if Don Lemon did not see it coming, I'm sure they didn't want to pull him into the office and be like,
"That's how it happens."
So
and I wonder if it was a coincidence that it happened the same day.
They took the easy route, is what it looks like.
That is kind of like
well,
that seems like it's too much.
That's what's crazy.
And what about the NBC? Wasn't it the NBC guy, Chef, too?
We know why Tucker Carlson's
been known this was coming. He's known this is coming down the pipe for a while.
I think Don Lemon has too.
But we can say the same for Don Lemon. I was about to say, there's no difference here. Both people have been reprimanded,
but it's different because
multiple occasions.
Fox News would have never probably parted ways with Tucker Carlson had there not been this lawsuit. He still would be on the air right at this moment. He hasn't done anything that Fox News didn't allow him to do.
Well,
does
he
that
actually
mean?
has a
That don't mean
sexual
anything because
allegation against
that's
him.
not what
Actually, let me make sure we put out all the facts.
with all this.
I forgot that the law does not give very much weight to sexual
Because
allegations. We know that only
who has
because
sexual
of what we've seen
allegations?
of the law.
Women.
So
Women
you're
don't
right.
matter in this world. It seems like everything is against women.
It hasn't been proven, was allegations. So he hasn't actually wasn't it. I don't think he thought that was going to be what actually walked him out the door. I think he knew for a fact that this lawsuit was going to be what parted ways with him and Fox News. That's the reason why. I think CNN, it was something totally different. I think it was they were going through internal investigations and all that stuff. But what I think they should have done is I think there should have been a real conversation, come to the table and say, hey, it's not looking good. We want to let you know we're still in the middle of the investigation, but there may, down the line, we may have to have a discussion.
Kind of
that would have been
way.
something that would have been right and fair. I don't think that's why Tucker's not mad, because he knew it was coming. He knew that Fox News wasn't going to give $2 billion for him.
Don Lemon's, one of the things they had coming down the pike with him with this women thing, it was really silly. That was a very weak way of letting him go, because he said that one of the candidates was past their prime. At 51, yeah, I'm past my prime. I know I'm past my prime. It's the truth. If you over 51, you're not a young thing, So all he said was the truth, really, and they had a fit.
Well, I was actually, so that's true, Snook. There is that. I was actually referring to sexual allegations against Tucker Carlson.
Really.
But that is what happened with Don Lemon. But the whole point is that we're starting to we talk a lot about, we tell you guys all the time, we like to cover business, because these are real business things happening. Like I experienced it where my agent let me know that my services are no longer needed for a job. And so
it happens to
it's happening to everyone. It doesn't matter what job you have, what I've been traded multiple times. I found out I was traded. I wasn't even practicing with the team. I was so sick.
And it happens to older employees, male or women. If you go and you've been at a company for 30 or 40 years and a new person comes in, the first thing they do is they look at who's paid what. If you've been there for a long time, you might be making more than they making, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
That, and drop the mic on that. And Snook, we gonna drop the mic on that. But yeah, man, we always like to just talk about things because the world is going through so many changes right now, and we want to go through those changes with you guys. Stay right here though, because Alycia Baumgardner, man, she's up next. Okay, so we are here with Alycia Baumgardner, and she's one of the most exciting fighters. All right, you guys don't know, but she stormed the global prominence with a 4th-round knockout over Terry Harper in 2021. I'm just going to start with that, but welcome to Montgomery Co, Alycia.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Let's go. All right, well, first of all, nicknames. Listen, I never got a nickname while playing. The only thing they called me was Big Mommy sometimes, but you got the nickname The Bomb, and I think that's big lit, man. How did you get that nickname?
Before I turned pro, I'm like, okay, we're going to need a name. Baumgardner is my last name, so I'm like, The Bomb. It just flowed with it, so I'm like, perfect.
Okay. So you gave yourself your own nickname.
I did, yes.
Well, how do we feel about that?
Listen, I'm like, this is what it gotta be, and it just flows.
I love that. No, that's dope. And so we're talking about people, like, you're a boxer, and that's a physical sport. You fight at weight 130. You're the undisputed champ. So, like, see, this is things that don't happen in basketball where it's like, there's nobody else to beat at 130. Would you ever move up to 135 for the competition of it, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. 135 is just, again, a weight class up. I love a challenge. I love, making myself known, like, hey, I'm here to fight whoever. And if that's moving up, I will do that.
I love that. All right, so listen, we're coming off the heels of the WNBA draft. Shouts to my squad, the Atlanta Dream. We reloaded with 3 great picks, and it made me think about how something you said where you were like, I firmly believe that women can do it all. I see it on a daily basis. And so when it comes to boxing, I'm curious how the women's game is viewed and supported, because this is something that on the women's basketball side, we're fighting every day to just elevate.
Yeah, I would say it's the same, it being just a women's sport, but in a male dominated sport, you know, us women are able to uplift each other. And I think when we're able to continue to do that, we can, you know, rise to the occasion in the sport of boxing, period, and not even have women's boxing. It's just boxing. So again, it takes a lot of work because it's still growing and evolving, and it's a movement. So, you know, we have to continue to work at that and make sure that we're recognized.
I love that. It's a movement, and it's just boxing. I like that in a sense too, because I think that you, as well as some other boxers, have said, like, listen, more fights, more pay. So how is that looking? What are your thoughts on that and the pay gap?
Yeah, you know, again, it's another thing to continue to speak about and be vocal about, because we are risking our lives every time we step in that ring, just like the men. And we just want to be recognized. We want to be respected, and just, you know, our talent speaks for itself. So, you know, it's continuing to be better, but again, it can always be better. So.
Facts. It can always be better. Speaking of better, the women's Final Four did record-setting numbers, 9.9 million viewers in the championship game. So I'm curious, you know, we talked a little bit about you, but I'm curious, besides yourself, who is a fight that you would want to see in the women's game that you think would probably do big numbers if those two matched up?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of top girls right now in the game. And so we have a few. Amanda Serrano, who's also undisputed at 126. We have Katie Taylor, who's undisputed at 135. These are big names that I would like. And these, again, would do numbers. We did 2.2 million views in London when we fought. And it was an all women's card. So, like, that just shows that, you know, people are watching boxing. And on top of that, we have dominant women at the highest level competing for titles. So it's there, and I'm all for it.
That's crazy. And, you know, we're starting to see a lot more infusing of boxing, UFC, MMA. We've seen even on boxing. Would you ever be interested in, we see where people are fighting, maybe not necessarily boxers, but the Jake Pauls, Logan Pauls of the world, where they're influencer boxers. How do you feel about that? Would you ever join in on that?
Well, I am a professional boxer, what I do. And so for the entertainment world, I could see why people like, you know, certain celebrities are doing these boxing. It's entertainment at the end of the day. But I used to wrestle, so I wouldn't mind to do MMA. So I have a wrestling background. So that was something that I thought about doing just to step up. Like, I'm an athlete, all around athlete. Again, I love a challenge, so why not?
Love that. All right. So we're talking about like blockbuster fights and big fights. And on April 22nd, Tank Davis, who's 28-0, matches up with Ryan Garcia, 23-0. You know, he always is doing that little thing on his Instagrams and stuff. It's been talked about a lot. Who do you have in that fight?
You know, it's a great fight. Again, you have two of the best fighters fighting each other. And I can't pick a winner. And I want the best man to win. And I see both sides. I see Ryan, who's hungry. He's young. He's undefeated. He's been the underdog. I know what it feels to be the underdog and to be overlooked, to say you're not qualified. And then also you see Tank, who's built his profile, who is a world champion, who has fought, you know, some of the best fighters and is trying to stay there and make his presence known. So, you know, I see both sides, and I just love that this fight is being made for the sport, and it's something to look forward to.
Definitely something to look forward to. We got power coming from Tank, and we got Ryan Garcia with the speed and agility. And I always wondered this after, you know, like, listen, I like entertainment. Everybody knows that. I like TV shows and movies. And with Creed and Rocky, we saw the scenes where after their fight, the day after, it's like the pits and they can barely move. So I want to hear it from like a real, you say you're a professional boxer. Like, what is that day after a physical fight like? Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you know, you train for like 2 months, and then you have one night of fighting. So depending how that fight goes, you know, your body can be pretty much beat up. But for me, you know, I might walk out with like a little mark on my face. You know, your body's gonna be a little sore, but it just reminds me that I work hard and that the soreness is there for a reason.
I love that. And listen, well, so you're like not that sore after a fight though, for real? It's like the adrenaline, like how is it? Like, because we see a lot of like, I don't know, it just seems like if I got punched more than one, if I get punched once, look out. All right, everybody gonna hear about it the next day. I would be throwing a fit. You guys are getting hit multiple times. Like, what is, like, is there a headache the next day, a migraine? What is it?
Sometimes, like depending on where you're getting hit at, you may have some bruising, you may have some sore spots, but listen, it's hit and not get hit.
Boom.
So the goal is not to be beat up, but the goal is to win.
Oh, well, speaking of the goal is to win, we had your homie previously on the show, friend of the show, Clarissa Shields, but she also is one of your friends, I think I read somewhere, and she's the GOAT. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but she calls herself the greatest woman of all time. And honestly, she's been proving it a lot in the ring. And so I'm curious your thoughts, because there's been discussions about, should women's boxing go to 3-minute rounds like the men? They're currently at 2-minute rounds, but with powerful fighters like Carissa, could that result in more knockouts as well with longer rounds?
I would say yes. I see both sides. 2 minutes is not a problem for me. I can get knockouts in 2 minutes. You can also get knockouts in 3. I think at the higher level, as world championship level fights, I wouldn't mind to see those be 3 minutes, just because they're high level fights and 2 minutes goes pretty fast. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind that, but I also wouldn't mind a 2-minute, 12-minute. If we did 12 rounds, 2 minutes, I think that's great. But 3 minutes, that has to be more pay, and that comes with more, to the sport for women. So those would have to, be dissected in a way where it's still being, respected if we were fighting 2 minutes.
No, that makes sense. And so do you guys have like a collective bargaining group or anyone that speaks on the fighter's behalf? Because that's a good point. Yeah, like everybody's saying we want more, and we do because we want to see more. But you're like, yeah, but pay us more if you want more too. Who's fighting on that behalf?
That comes with promoter, that comes with network, that comes with your team, that comes with the sport of boxing. Women's boxing makes the smallest movement. So if we're able to, again, capitalize and show that we can fight 3 minutes, which we can, maybe we can draw that attention. But right now, I kind of like that it separates us from the men, that we are fighting 2 minutes and that we are dominating in that fashion. So I wouldn't mind 12 rounds, 2 minutes. Okay. Because the men are fighting 3-minute rounds, 12 rounds. 3 minutes. 12 rounds.
And how many rounds are you guys right now?
So we are at 10 rounds. That's championship. Okay. 2 minutes.
So mm-hmm. 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 rounds is what you guys are at right now. You wouldn't mind 12 rounds at 2 minutes. So basically keeping the same amount of time, adding a couple more rounds, and the men are at 12 rounds, 3 minutes.
Correct. Yes.
Got you. And so what is that like? So, everything is separate. So what is that like, building your own brand in a sense? Because we talk about it a lot on the show here with name, image, and likeness, because the college athletes now have entered that space where we see brand deals going all over the place with them. So what is it like from you, just a boxer, building your own brand in your own hub?
Yeah, building my own brand and being my own promoter. When I got into the sport of boxing, I understood the dynamic. I understood that I was in a male-dominated sport. I understood that women were overlooked. So I'm like, I have to be the best promoter for myself to capitalize on any given opportunity and continue to build that profile. Again, this is an entertainment business, and you can be a world champion. Nobody knows you. You can be someone without a belt and somebody knows you. Again, it's all about building profile in this day of age, social media and what that does, and, capitalizing on those entertainment places to make sure that women are staying here and not dropping lower than that.
No, it's crazy because that's a good point. Like, you could literally be the best in the world in your sport and somebody not know who you are because somebody might be more attracted to a different style of fighter, or they might have something that they do. Does that, I know it's like weird to say, but does that ever make you want to have to try to do things to in the ring when you win, or to make yourself stand out? Like, because in sports, like for me, basketball, I played in the WNBA 11 years. If you play well, you're going to stand out. So if I make 11 threes, you're going to hear about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you break a record, but in boxing, to your point, you made a good point. Like, we could very well not hear about it unless something happens, a crazy knockout or something of that nature. So does that ever make you want to like try to just do different things in the ring to stand out?
Listen, when I'm getting in the ring, I want to knock you out. We all love knockouts. We don't get paid by the round. And again, entertainment, if we can entertain the crowd, if we can get knockouts, people are going to watch, period. So that's just something that I want to elevate my game more and just continue working hard, training hard, and have those entertaining fights.
Well, health and wellness was a huge part of majority of my life being an athlete. I'm sure it's a big part of yours. What you put in your body, it fuels that machine. And I'm hearing that you may want to start a juicing business. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. Again, performance is everything. We know what it is to perform and how our bodies are able to perform. I want to be the best on fight night. So it's important that I'm, educating myself on what I'm putting in my body and how I'm able to perform, because that matters.
I love it. That matters. And just because of what you just said to me, it makes me want to leave with one last question of, if somebody doesn't know who you are, the boxer, the person, like, how would you describe them to you in a sense of like, tap into your world? This is what you're doing. Like, what type of fighter are you? What's your style? Like, just talk to us about like, who is this? I know who you are because you've knocked out some folks and it's unreal. But for the people that may not know.
I sometimes play with people and I'm like, do you ever watch women's boxing? And some people be like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh, well, there's this girl, her name's Alycia, and like, she's really good. She goes by The Bomb. And they're like, really? And then I'll make them look it up. Like, yeah, just type in The Bomb boxer. And then, the knockout will come, or just like the fights. And they're like, wait, is that you? I'm like, yeah. And then it just goes on from there. So sometimes, people will judge, a cover, right? So people see a pretty face, but they don't think that underneath this, I got muscles and a body that's ready to fight somebody. So it's kind of like fun to see the difference and really to show the world that you can be a beauty and a beast. And it's not just one way of how somebody should look and what does a fighter really look like, So I think it's nice to push that agenda as well.
I love that. And so that made me think of something else too. So I'm looking at a photo on your Instagram of you and Michael B. Jordan. Like, what? You went to the Creed 3 premiere in LA. What was that experience like, being a real boxer and just kind of infusing into the entertainment boxing world?
I loved every minute of it. I'm like, listen, I know some of y'all here, but I'm a real fighter. Like,
let's go.
What I do, right? This is me. This is my type of life right here. And so it was just nice to be there. Because again, some people watch the sport, some people don't. So just to be there to represent boxing, a women fighter, and just kind of show the other side. I loved every minute of it. And again, the movie was great. I spoke to Michael and I'm like, thanks for representing my sport the way you did. It's nice to have a good boxing movie as well. So it was dope.
That's crazy. And that made me think of something that Clarissa said, and this is kind of off topic, but she said, like, when she goes out sometimes and people try it, she'd be like, don't try it. Has anybody tried it with you out and you had to like let them know, like, this is a lethal weapon and I can use it? Like, has that ever happened where you?
It has, but I feel like I give off like this sense of like, I wouldn't mess with her. Like, especially if I got like a dress on and my arms are out, people are questioning, okay, what did she do? Because hand in hand, I don't know if I want to mess with that. So for the most part, I'm not no fighter outside the ring, but if I have to,
I ain't a killer, but don't push me.
Okay, that part.
Listen, Alycia, thank you so much for pulling up on us. I can't wait. Your next fight hasn't been named yet, but you already named the folks that you think would be blockbuster. So make it happen. Whoever needs to make it happen, the promoters, the sponsors, everybody, we want to see it, and we're going to be following your journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Talking to Alycia Baumgardner, you could just hear the greatness. You could feel the competitiveness. Thinking about NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, when the WNBA playoffs happen, that greatness that just exudes when people talk. There's also greatness in TV talent. Some could say that Rachel Maddow shows greatness. Some people could say Joyanne Reed exhibits greatness. You name it. Those hosts have greatness in them. Greatness can be at any job, any position. I think a lot of times we always associate it with sports, but I always say that we have a rock star super team in the front office for the Atlanta Dream. We got greatness in our office. We will not see you guys next week because we don't have a show, but it's a generational thing.